Hi, Mike Matchett with Small World Big Data. I'm here today talking about one of the latest things in storage. Of course, we cover storage in depth. We're talking with StorPool, though, about bringing some new features to block storage at scale and high performance. It's pretty incredible what we're able to see here with what StorPool's bring. So just stay tuned. So hey, Boyan, welcome back to our show. There's some new things happening with StorPool, but first, let me just ask you, what's keeping you excited these days? What's going on in the storage industry that's keeping things fresh and interesting?
So there are a number of things. A lot of them are about improving the data center altogether, be it in terms of performance, price performance, or data storage footprint, or power consumption of the data sets. There are many things happening that are interesting.
So we know in the background things like VMware getting acquired and people needing more and more big data and AI, HPC workloads coming along that are really consuming vast amounts of things. So when you look at the storage industry, block storage seems to be one of those areas that seems at first to be kind of settled ground. We had SANs, we had block storage, and now everyone's talking about cloud storage and these greater things. How are you guys bringing block storage into this cloud storage era?
I think it's typical for humans. That's the human nature to think in hypes and what's cool. But people forget that everything else continues to exist. Companies still sell a lot of mainframes. So block storage is healthy. It's growing. Data sets are growing. It's not growing as fast as AI workload. That's true. It's not as sexy, but it's there. It's growing. It's in a good shape.
Right. And people are really looking for these solutions now at scale. What are some of the other challenges people are looking at with this kind of data storage as they go forward? I mean, there's more than just scale happening.
Right. I think more than scale, there are a couple of things. One is the complexity. And complexity has many forms and shapes. For example, if you're a large company, you likely have a lot of IT needs, a lot of use cases, which creates a need for different types of systems. They create complexity. They require a lot of skills, and everybody's lacking the skills or the people with the skills. It's very hard to hire people and expensive these days, as everybody knows. Everybody's hiring more people that they can, find, or having more open positions. That's a vector of complexity. Another one is to have systems that the previous generation technologies like SAN that was developed as a concept from the mainframe local storage architecture, and then shared dual controller SAN arrays doesn't scale much. Then you create complexity because of the scale, or international deployments on multiple locations with different storage technologies. So there are many vectors that create complexity and challenges for companies running data storage, and pretty much any company today is an IT company. This is what digital transformation is about. So everybody's fighting with a lot of these challenges.
Yeah, when I think of the modern enterprise storage today, they look around and they say, I need to provide 18 different kinds of storage generally to the users that are out there. And I just pulled 18 out of the air, but it's probably pretty close, right? Because we've got VMware, we've got Kubernetes, we've got primary storage, we've got secondary storage, we've got block storage, file storage, object storage. We've got this whole matrix of storage solutions.
Right.
And yet we want to start to look like a cloud provider, a service provider, whether we are a service provider or an enterprise storage shop. How does StorPool start to help someone look more like a service provider to their organization?
All right. So that's a very good question. And modern enterprises are IT companies first. I would give example with banks. Banks 20 years ago, you go into a branch, there are people there. Can you imagine that? The office was a core asset. Today, banks are, your bank is online, or you're in your phone, like in your pocket. So they are essentially IT companies. This is what digital transformation is about. Most companies today are IT companies first, and banks and real estate and insurance companies second, which means an explosion in IT. That means multiple use cases that have core applications, but then they have a bunch of developers developing different applications, testing them for different environments like mobile and tablets and whatnot, doing analytics on top, doing data lakes, recommendation engines. All of that is complexity that has to be addressed somehow. And StorPool is addressing it by a platform approach. So you have multiple tiers. Let's say you have your tier 0 stuff, that's your core applications that are demanding NVIDIA and databases, etc. But then you have store performance tiers, then you have your analytics, then you have your backup down there at tier 3, tier 4, you have maybe even some tape, right? So that's something that you didn't touch upon, but that's a third dimension of that multidimensional matrix about complexity besides the VMware, besides the Kubernetes and a lot of the new software stacks that appear. And StorPool is taking a platform approach. We do a bunch of price performance tiers. We do very wide compatibility list in terms of software stacks that are supported, like from VMware, containers, Kubernetes, OpenStack, etc. And we also do built-in backup disaster recovery functionality in the solution. So we kind of like a modern enterprise would be having these problems and that complexity, and we're trying to collapse it and improve it for them and improve their lives.
If I look at the map, StorPool is covering a big swath of that matrix in one solution, not necessarily trying to be unified across everything, but saying, hey, we do block really well. And so if you've got tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, even some tier 3 use cases, we can all host it on StorPool in its cloud-like service manner, and that really it would help modernize many different kinds of companies. Let's talk a little bit about not where you've been, because you've already doing that, but what's going on. What are you challenged with today? What are people coming and saying? What do we need next?
Right. There are a number of things. So one thing that we're launching is high performance erasure coding that is going to optimize the footprint of the IT environments, and especially with the crazy prices of energy resources, that's an important feature because people would have high electricity bills, and doing more with the same hardware is something that they'd like to get or they must have these days. Wider compatibility list. We're looking at expanding the compatibility matrix in terms of supported software stacks, and we've been, for example, a small thing is that we've integrated with Proxmox, which is a system that a lot of VMware users are looking at as just as a redundancy type of move, right?
Sure, got to have your plan B.
Sadly so. But it's always the case to have kind of a typically dual vendor strategy, especially for larger enterprises. That's kind of like a company policy. So it's the way it is.
All right, so some VMware options there. Let's just talk a little bit more about that erasure coding thing you talked about, because erasure coding for this scalable block storage solution, and most people think of erasure coding as something that's kind of a slower speed storage solution, something you might use when you're building, cloud object storage and you're going to move blocks in a wider area, which is how it got its start. How have you managed to bring that into a performance block storage solution?
All right. So there are some misconceptions on the market. A lot of people think that most products have proper erasure coding. I talk about high performance block systems, and this is not the case, surprisingly so. That's one. So we've been able to do something that preserves the level of performance extremely high, but also allows companies to reduce their physical footprint, which is to have their cake and eat it too, which is something that's unique on the market today. There is a lot of engineering and things that we've done. I can talk about this, but it will take some time. People can have a look at our website and kind of contact us if they want to know more. I'll just mention a couple of things. One is we do it across nodes, so different physical machines, unlike RAID 5.6 that is typically in one chassis. So you can tolerate failure of entire nodes in the system, and if you have the scale, entire racks, which is something that's unique. And also, it's done in such a way that it has invisible performance impact on customer operations, allowing them to host tier 0 applications, extremely low the databases, core apps, without having the trade-off to restore to replication just because the system is doing very wide mesh recovery, mesh encoding, etc. in the system. So a lot of technology behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think people should take a really good look at StorPool because you've taken block storage to this really kind of scalable system with lots of nodes and lots of racks if you want to get to what, 50 petabytes. And when you start to do that, you can come backwards and look and say, well, that's what object storage in the cloud started to look like, scale out storage systems with lots of different nodes. And they were able to do erasure coding and bring things back and say, well, if we do the block system this way, now we can come back and steal things from improve things from the cloud storage side of the house and bring erasure coding into this block storage paradigm and get those similar benefits of being able to rebuild without having a hotspot and being able to use the entire farm to help rebuild anything that's failed rather than just the RAID group or whatever you might have previously had. So a lot of very cool things. I'll just mention too, like you have an always on perspective with the StorPool well. So it's again another kind of cloud provider friendly feature that you built. How did you guys manage? Was that one of the first design goals? How did you manage this always on design perspective?
All right. So we wanted to build a product that solves a lot of the issues with the previous generation storage products, which is typically a SAN solution, all flash array, centered around the appliance, the hardware. And now everybody's living in the data layer. More so, everybody's living in the 21st century, not 50 years back when these architectures were developed. And companies of today, they're global, they're 24/7. They operate like clouds. They're cloud companies, essentially. They need API access. They need dynamic provisioning. They need always on. They need self-service enabled for their users, internal or external. So they need the tools that Amazon and Google would be using themselves and building for themselves, but not selling as tools. And we're building the tools for people to be able to run a cloud native type of environment that the business of today just requires. You cannot imagine a case where you go somewhere abroad and because it's Monday there, but it's Sunday still at your home country, and your bank, you have no access to your online banking, right? Because you're updating something. That's not acceptable, scenario anymore. So.
Right. So build first with the cloud, and now with erasure coding for increased efficiency and probably even some other benefits here for recovery and resiliency, as we talked about. So even better. That's awesome. I think we're kind of running out of time here. Is there any last thing you'd want to tell people? Maybe where they could find out more information on if they want to dig a little deeper into StorPool, either the architecture or kick the tires a bit.
Sure. They can find more at storpool.com, our website, or they can find me in LinkedIn and drop me a note, or kind of always happy to share our findings about the market and insights. So even if we're not working together, we'll do our best to kind of educate people and share the knowledge that we accumulate by talking to hundreds of companies.
Yeah, and you've done an incredible amount of market competitiveness too. So I appreciate the conversations we've had. Take advantage of that if you guys want. There you go. Check out StorPool. For maybe one of the first companies here with erasure coding for tier 0 workloads, high performance block workloads, and erasure coding. Go figure. Thank you for being here today, Boyan.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care, people.